Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Influence to Income podcast. We're your hosts, Haley and Doug. And the purpose of this podcast is to help influencers grow their personal brands and make passive income through online courses. And I know that we've said this for every podcast episode that we've had already, and we'll probably keep saying it, but we're really pumped about today's episode.
Yeah, I am particularly excited about this episode because it's something that I am currently, I have been really obsessed with. And it's definitely taken Doug a while, like I think most husbands.
Much longer, yes.
But we're going to be talking about money mindset shifts that have allowed us to have rapid income growth during a pandemic throughout the last 12 months. If we hadn't have gone through these five, there's a lot more than five, but we're going to really try and stick to five. But if we hadn't have gone through these five mindset shifts throughout the past probably year and a half, we wouldn't have been able to, I don't really know what we've done, honestly. I don't know if it's double our income, probably maybe even triple, starting a brand new business with a brand new income stream, made passive income through online courses, and just honestly have completely transformed our lives if it wasn't for these money/mindset shifts. So we're going to be talking about these. And I know a lot of you guys are really interested in just I get a lot of questions like, why do you think like that? Why do you invest so much money in things? How did you even completely change as a person, to be honest?
Yep.
So we're going to go through all of these.
Yeah. And if you've kind of just consumed any form of Haley's content, you'll learn that when she starts talking about mindset, she just talks forever. Because she just gets so excited about it. She's always pumped about mindset. Can you explain
why? Because at first he was like, oh my God,
at first I thought it was a bunch of frou-frou, fluffy, doing all kinds of weird stuff. But really, the thing behind it is that the mind is such a powerful thing. And the mind is not just powerful for good things, but the mind is also powerful for negative things.
Yes.
And the mind can hold you back, and the mind can stop you, and the mind can do all these things. And if you don't train it correctly, then you're not really going to get anywhere. And Haley has seen the moment it's weird. I'm not going to say that it's just some kind of weird coincidence, but maybe it's leaning towards there's proof to this. But every time Haley has some type of mindset shift, something big for us happens.
Yeah.
So and every time she makes this breakthrough, every time she becomes a new self, which we'll talk about in a little bit, big changes happen. We start getting more growth. We start making more money. We start getting bigger clients. All these things happen because it starts with the mind. It's not some kind of thing that happens we implemented some new type of strategy. It all starts back with the mind. And like Haley said, we're going to try to keep it down to 5 points, but really she could talk about 46 points.
I would love to have my own podcast about mindset because Doug would probably kill me. And honestly, Doug says a lot about, Haley. And it is, it is mostly me. We like to be very real and transparent. I'm not going to lie and say Doug sits there and reads mindset books on business because he doesn't do that. He does the other, 50% of the things that are necessary or more, 80% probably. That is the technical stuff. But let me tell you guys right now and why I feel so compelled to do this podcast episode, even though it's slightly unrelated to online courses and being, I don't think it is.
No, I think it's totally related. And I think it's totally something that's absolutely necessary for us to do because no matter what you're doing, the mindset needs to be in the right place.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with the tactical stuff. It has nothing to do, how many times do I have to say it, with your audience size as to why you're not making money, or the fact that you're not special enough and it's your lack of skills, or the fact that you're not as good at SEO as Doug or analytics and things like that. It truly is all down to the thoughts you're thinking in your mind. So that's why I feel this stuff is so important. And even in all of the courses that we currently run and the digital products and the coaching offers, there's a huge chunk in the beginning on mindset. Always. And the first time I created, with Doug, all of these types of programs, mindset was really just surface level. People got way less results. The very first one is really simple. And it's something that we've really learned, I think, probably in 2020. If you guys look back at any of our videos on YouTube from 2015, 16, 17, even up to 2019, I think a lot of you guys, and I do get this comment sometimes, not all the time, but people will be like, you are not the same person.
You changed,
you look sort of the same, obviously. Yeah, Doug definitely changed, but me too. Our personalities are slightly different. I don't know. Some people say we're more serious. That's because we're trying to run a business, a legit business. But, we truly had to have changed our identity and our sense of self in order to morph into people that have, growing rapid success. And I'm really not doing this podcast to toot, our own horns or whatever, but it is true. We wouldn't have seen any success if we hadn't have changed like our self-identity. So basically I guess quote, you guys should write this down because I have all of these in my notes and my iPhone. Doug thinks I'm crazy, but you cannot succeed as the person you are currently.
So why don't we break that down real quick? Because it sounds like a lot of wordsmithery marketing.
Sounds
stuff,
depressing. I mean, you can't even get success with who you are.
Yeah.
That sounds depressing,
that's
but it's
what it
true.
Means. And all it means is that like, if you're the person that you are now and you're not seeing success, why do you think that same person will all of a sudden get success? It doesn't make sense. Like if I'm not making 500K now as the person that I am, why would I all of a sudden just start making 500K? I need to make some type of change. And you need to understand that there needs to be some type of change in order for change to happen.
Yeah.
So you have to be the person that you need to be in the future. You need to make those changes to be the person that can make that 500K, right?
Yeah, it's really weird and kind of freaky, honestly, but you have to try and become a different person to see rapid success. I mean, you can try and do this over time, but it'll take you way longer. A lot of people like to really embrace, I mean, especially with society nowadays, like who they are. They act like, well, I was just born this way, and this is just my personality as an introvert. I'm not good at selling, or I'm not I don't know I'm not good at math.
Lots of other things like
so
that.
many things that you just think are a part of you, but really you have to break that identity to, become the better and next version of yourself.
Yeah. And you really need to sit there and you just need to tear down who you are if you want to get anywhere. You know what? If you're comfortable with where you are, go ahead, whatever, enjoy yourself and enjoy exactly what it is and however you feel about yourself. But if you want to get to better places and if you want to be able to get better things, then you effectively just need to just talk, expletive at whatever your current self is. So like for the longest time, I always told myself that I couldn't sell. Like I suck at selling and I'm not good at selling. So, now that we're going through and doing these programs and we're doing this coaching and we're doing sales calls, like I have to tell myself like, no, that's stupid that I think that I suck at selling. Like I'm actually really good at selling. I'm actually really good at doing these calls. And it's helped us to be able to land calls and land sales that we, maybe we wouldn't have gotten if I didn't make that mindset shift. If I came into a call thinking that I suck, like I'm gonna suck.
Or on social media, if you say to yourself, I'm just like, whatever, not attractive enough, I'm too old, or I'm shy, I can't be on social media. Well, then you're gonna suck. Like, honestly, you have to trick the mind. The mind is trying to protect you against, fear of the unknown, and you have to just tell it to suck it. Like, honestly.
Yeah. And
so,
but you have to absolutely find those weak points and just tear yourself down and just say like, this is not what true. I'm going to be. This is not true. And you really need to be honest with yourself too. Like you need to be honest with yourself and what you think and what you say about yourself, because there are things that subliminally you'll say to yourself, or subconsciously, that you'll say to yourself that you don't even notice, so you got to really think about it. And that's one of the hard things about mindset, is that there's a lot of like self-awareness that has to come in, and you have to really think about things.
Yeah, because you could know all the tactics in the book about how to grow, let's say magically tomorrow you woke up and you knew all the algorithms like ever. You knew all about YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, blogging, SEO. You knew about how to grow on Instagram. You were just a wizard and you could grow it so much, and you knew all of those, step-by-step points. But then the mind is like, well, you know all this, but you actually just really suck on social media and you don't know how to talk to people. Well, you're not going to do anything with that information anyways. Yeah. So basically there's two questions that you really want to focus on in trying to shift your mind. Before Doug and I started this business, and we were very fearful of so many things, like what if it doesn't work? We're paying so much money in coaches, we haven't made money yet, and we kind of just would say in the back of our mind, who are we now and what are we good at? But instead of asking yourself, who am I, you should be asking yourself, who do I need to become to basically attract wealth and attract success?
So there's also this thing that comes with self-awareness and the mindset, and I forget like the exact way to think about it, but it's kind of like you're the lowest version of yourself that you're willing to accept. Now, let's just think about this for a second. So if there's a version of you and you just think about you currently, who you are, you're willing to accept like only certain things. Like you only let things go so far. Yeah. So like, if you like to watch 2 hours of Netflix a day, but you're like, oh my goodness, I can't watch any more than 2 hours. Yeah, 3 is bad, but 2 is okay.
Yeah.
Like you are the lowest version of yourself of what you're willing to accept. So if you like, oh, you know, my room is only this much messy and there's clothes everywhere, but it's okay because at least it's not like hamburger wrappers on the ground or something like
Ants
that.
on the bed.
Yeah, ants on the bed. Then that's the lowest version that you're willing to accept. So what you need to do is you need to change that version.
Yeah, raise your standard.
You need to raise your standards. So if you're doing 2 hours of Netflix at night instead of waking up in the morning, and you understand that in order to be successful, you need that extra hour a day before your kids wake up, then you better stop watching Netflix at night and raise your standard. And now you're like, well, now I only get 10 minutes of Netflix
I'm only
a night, or I don't
accept
get
that.
any Netflix, and I'm only going to accept that level of myself.
Yeah, and this is kind of a side note I didn't have written down. Doug hates when I go on tangents, but it's so applicable. So I heard this quote years ago from Tony Robbins. It's very, very popular. If you don't know who he is, he's like a self-help guru, kind of like a king of it. But it's basically like, you know, if you want success, just try and go and imitate someone that has already had success. Like try and morph into their character, literally. Go and find the things that they like, the hobbies they like, you know, find out what books they read and find out how, like when they wake up, like down to like the littlest things. You need to try and become that person. And that doesn't mean you lose yourself and all of the things. I'm not even going to go down all that because I don't believe in that at all. You're just trying to better yourself, you know? And
don't shave your head because this person.
Yeah, you don't need to do all those things. You got to still embrace who you are, like all of that. You don't need to change religion. That's not what I'm saying. But, you know, you really need to model success. And the people in your life that have had success where you want to be, you have to go and see their patterns and see what they're doing. So for instance, for us, we didn't necessarily have like one person, I don't think.
No.
But we definitely looked to people that made passive income through online courses. A lot of them don't have kids and families, which is why I wanted to start this podcast, because it's like I couldn't relate to hardly anybody.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what makes, I think, our process different a little bit, is that we can't sit here and just pour all of our time into our business. We got kids to raise.
Yeah, we
like
would, but we can't. So we had to look to where we could fix things about ourselves. So for instance, you know, the identity that I associated with most before was to be very raw and, you know, real, and probably where you guys are at right now. If you haven't seen any success financially, whatever, all of the things, not just financially, but that's kind of what this podcast is about. But I was a complete hot mess. I mean, I had like tiny kids.
No comment.
Yeah, I mean, Doug too, okay? Seriously. But, you know, especially me because I had tiny kids. I was like breastfeeding them. I was on the hormone train of postpartum. I'm still there, you know, but mentally I was just honestly disturbed because I was living this life that I didn't want to be living. And you can listen to the all about that in the first podcast episode. But we were very disorganized. Our house was a complete disaster. We didn't hire any help. I was like very scarce. And do you want to talk about kind of like who you were before, maybe with the scarcity and all that kind of stuff?
It's really scary to think about kind of who I was before.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to hire any help. I thought we had to control everything. I was constantly talking about like budget and
super stressed
about money all the time. And it was just like all of these things that I couldn't even imagine myself doing now. Like credit cards, I was so scared of credit cards. Like I just was not about the credit card train for the longest time.
Or investing in
really
general.
Investing in ourselves in general, or like in online courses. It was a very kind of like hard thing to do, you know, to think about, because what kind of sucks is that you're trained a certain way for just so many years of your life.
Yeah, it's
like,
really hard.
Yeah, so if you're not like indoctrinated in this from the start, you have to kind of break yourself like a horse, like a wild horse, you know?
Yeah. And so we had to really pick apart our old self and tell ourselves, as weird and wacky as this is, like whenever we'd have a thought, like I would always say, it was like plastered on my forehead, you know, I don't have enough time to do this business because I have tiny kids at home. Like I don't have enough time. That was both of our, we still say it. Okay. It's very difficult to stop saying that.
Yeah. And you have to catch yourself. You have to teach yourself how to catch yourself saying those things and then correct yourself.
Yeah. And you know what I would say, as psycho as this is? I would say no. Like, I'm not going to say that. Like, that is my old self.
Out loud to herself? Like, she's just like in the bathroom. I hear her like getting ready and she's like, no.
I don't have multiple personalities, Doug. But seriously, I would talk to myself in my head. And, you know, Doug would too. Not as crazy as me. But like all of this crazy woo-woo stuff is absolutely why we are where we are right now, living the life that we do, barely working and making passive income.
And it's a good thing that I have shifted myself, because Haley continues to spend money on these woo-woo things.
Oh, yeah. I will never stop.
and
I would,
keeps going.
And I would tell myself, that is not who I am anymore. Like, this is who I am. I don't I don't take crap. I make no excuses. I get it done, and I'm not scared, really. Like, it was the fear of investing and the fear of like trying something new and doing things outside my comfort zone. I was not about to listen to that part of myself. So anyways, that we could talk about that forever. But now we are different in the things that we do, and we still have to work so hard against fighting our old character, so now it sounds like we live in the lap of luxury. So we have a cleaning lady once a week, but that's huge for us. It's not because we're just, I don't even know.
No, we're not just trying to do this to be fancy and bougie and whatnot.
We have to raise what we're willing to tolerate of ourselves.
And the thing is too, is like, that was one of those steps that we needed to take
mentally.
Mentally was to just get help. And like, you don't ever want to admit
you don't want to be a victim anymore. That was another thing. I was like, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm just going to hire someone and make more money.
But you don't want to tell yourself, like, keep telling yourself, like, I don't need help. I can do this all on my own. Like, I'm not weak. Like, it's not weak to look for help.
Successful people do all that.
Yes, it's actually weak to think that you can do it yourself. So,
and also, besides the whole cleaning lady thing, which was really like a pivotal moment in my life, and you guys know, if you are a stay-at-home mom, what that means. But also, we pay for coaches before we make the money back. So that is a huge thing that we've done. Our new self, as creepy as that is.
And speaking of money, there's actually like a huge mindset shift that has to happen with money. And what really happens is that every time somebody has an interaction with money, there's always a feeling with it. Like, there's some kind of emotion. And
it's always
usually
bad.
Like positive.
Let's be honest.
Like, you get paid, ooh, it's positive. You got a bill, you got rent to pay, ooh, it's negative. But what you need to do is money needs to become a neutral commodity.
Yes.
And that's a weird thing to say.
So hard.
But you're not supposed to have feelings whether you make money or spend money.
Yes. So, without going into the depths of our soul here, being raised, especially, anywhere in the world really, but even in America, the richest country in the world, we're all kind of indoctrinated as children that you need to save and scrimp, and that money is not abundant. It's not, it's very scarce.
Dude, that phrase, man, money doesn't grow on trees.
It literally grows on trees.
Literally everywhere. It's said in every household at every point, except for like the 1%.
Yeah.
And you know what? You ain't going to be the 1% if you keep saying those things.
Yeah. And it's funny because it does grow on trees. It's paper.
I know.
It comes from a tree. But anyways,
really? Is it really made from paper now?
I don't know, Doug. But we could really talk about this at length for hours and hours. But, if you guys have ever heard phrases like, conserve electricity, turn off the lights, you're wasting money, or what else did you hear growing up?
Man, I couldn't.
I still say the phrases. I can't help myself.
Run the water in the sink, like turn off the water. Like when a toilet's running, you freak out because it's like wasting water.
Yeah. Or it's
not because we're like, fuck the environment or something like that. But those phrases were said because it increases the water bill. It increases the electric bill. The phone bill, good Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine?
Back in the day,
you had to do those like 3-way calls with your friends and they would charge you extra for those
or
things.
Turn off the air conditioning.
Turn off the air, open a window, put on a blanket.
And I remember when Starbucks like really came on the map, I think maybe when I was in high school, my dad, and I love my dad so much. If he's watching this, it's not, he still says this stuff, so he would laugh. But he would be like, are you joking me? Like $5. That's like the biggest joke of life, right? Like, are you kidding? You pay for Starbucks $5 for one drink, but it's like money should be neutral if you want to make a lot of money. Like, you can't expect to be wealthy if you look at something like a drink and shudder at the price. That should be nothing to you. That should be a meaningless thing, So,
and it really also shouldn't be the other way around though. Like, you have to be really careful. You shouldn't just be like, oh, that's a really good price, so I feel good about it. That's not a neutral commodity either. That's not it being neutral. That's still it being like some type of a feeling derived from spending money. Is that, I feel good because it's a low cost. Well, that's still a low money mindset. Like thinking that, I can spend on this because it's 30% off.
So who we were the people that we used to be, we would really look for deals, and we would, not necessarily clip coupons, because I feel like that you can do that online now. But I even used to promote, it's funny enough, I used to promote like on my YouTube channel years ago about coupon apps. I would never take, I don't even know if it was a coupon app. It was like, the things where you can go online and get a 10% off code. And then I would do like a sponsorship for it.
Or they do like the browser extension thing, like
and that's who I was. And if I look back, people are like, you don't even like that now. But I don't. I absolutely would not take on that sponsorship because I just don't believe in cutting coupons anymore. I believe in making more money because it's just way too easy to make it.
Yeah. So when you do those things, like, so when you are spending the money, you need to not think about like the feeling that you get from spending the money of it either being like, ooh, that's a lot of money, or ooh, look, I'm saving money. You have to really just think about like, do I need this thing or do I not? And the money is just the way to get it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, ooh, I'm getting that car that I wanted.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. But don't think to yourself like, I'm getting a good deal, or ooh, this is expensive, because that's when money has that feeling on you. And when money has a positive or negative feeling on you, it becomes hard to attract it, and it becomes hard to rapidly grow your income, because all of a sudden, like, now instead of like the car being what you're spending and you're feeling weird about it, you're like, ooh, I don't know if I should put that money on the credit card for the ads, or ooh, that cost is for the coaching is a lot. Like, if you have those feelings with the money, it's not a neutral thing. It's not just some weird inanimate object that you have no emotional connection to. Then you can't freely spend it and you can't freely make it.
Yeah. And honestly, like the biggest woo thing that I'll probably say in this whole episode,
I like that
and
phrase,
someone actually said it recently. I've been using it a ton. Okay. But, you know, something that is really just made the biggest difference is how we go about attracting money and wealth. And this is something, like I said, you know, I've taken multiple courses on this. Mm-hmm. It's something that I study and learn almost every single day, whether it's a video on YouTube or a podcast or books I'm reading, because it really is all about like raising your energetic vibe. And I know that is cray, but it's everything. Like, it really is.
I still think it's weird.
No. I prove it to Doug all the time. Like, every time, you know, we all have like we said earlier, we all have a standard for what we're willing to accept.
If you're willing to have $100 in my account is like all I can take, you know, that's the lowest I can go. It actually works the other way around too.
Yes.
Which is crazy, because Haley proved it to me like 2 or 3 months in a row. So Haley, the whole time, Haley didn't look at all the sales we made. She didn't look at the money we made.
No,
she
I
didn't
never
look at what
did.
we spent.
Never knew.
She still doesn't. And we go through and she's like, she believes she has this energetic match for this certain amount of money.
So income, like money in the bank,
like money in the bank, not like, you know, gross sales, and not, you know, all this other stuff.
Take home pay. Yeah.
Yes, take home pay. She says she has a certain number of take home pay every month, like fund money, spend money, and she's right every time. So for example, you know, no matter what we were doing, so whether this was me working at my job and Haley doing a little bit of YouTube on the side, or Haley going full time with YouTube and then me taking side gigs with clients, all the way up to like what we're doing now, no matter what was happening, you know, Haley, we were, for the longest time, we were making the same amount of money. We were doing
weird.
Like $15,000 to $17,000
it was like 15 to 17,
like,
and I was like, this number keeps following me around.
Yeah, no matter what, was happening. And, you know, no matter how much work we did, if we did a ton more work or if we did a lot less work, somehow, some magical, to use your word, woo-woo way, like, it would happen. And that's the number that we would just hit. And what we've realized is that to get past that number, which we've done now, and to go way beyond it, like, your feelings have to change. Your mindset has to change. And I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
I was like, you're telling me that if I work 50 hours this week versus the 10 hours I worked last week, I'm going to make the same amount of money because I feel the same way about money?
He was not on board.
This is lame.
I was like, trust me, Doug, this is the way.
Like, let's be real. Yeah, this is dumb. So, but guess what? That's how it works. I have no idea.
So you truly have to, you know, like we keep saying, raise the standard of what you're willing to accept of yourself. So if the person that makes, let's say you're always making 10K a month, and you're just like, no matter the job that you know, around 10K. It doesn't have to be specifically 10K, but let's say you get a new job, it's still maybe like 10 or 11, and you just can't let go of this number. Like, this number is not going to really increase no matter how much, you know, you switching jobs or how many promotions you get. Ask yourself, like, what you're willing to tolerate, you know? So at that certain level, like the 15 to 17K, we were not going to invest in a coach. I mean, we, quote unquote, if you guys are listening to this, you know, we couldn't afford a coach. That's what we would say. Like, we didn't want to invest in anything. We were scared at that, you know, number, that like pay grade, I guess. So we had to break free of our identity. So the last I'll say about that, but it's true. We had to become a different person, different people, in order to attract more and to raise like our energetic minimum, is what kind of like the manifestation people say. And then the last thing that we really have to say about money is that we used to kind of assume that people with wealth were, I don't know, so many different things. They're greedy, they're selfish, they have too much money, they don't know what to do with it, they're lazy people. I mean, that's kind of like what you've been indoctrinated with as a child. And nowadays we have to think about it so differently. We have to see it again as neutral, but also that it's a resource used for good. So just because we get more money doesn't make us bad people.
Man, it was the craziest thing. It's like, all these people who have a ton of money, like millionaires, even billionaires,
we live
like-
around them all. First
like
off,
they
it's
have
crazy.
they have the ability to help people, and they
Yeah.
do. People open up foundations, people start charities, people donate all of their money, they open up schools, like they do all these crazy good things, and you can't do that without money.
No, you can't
So
do anything.
when you're that person that's on social media being like, why does like so and so have, this person shouldn't have $1 billion, no one should have $1 billion.
You're getting real, Doug.
Yeah, it's like you can't say things like that
And
because
expect it,
and expect to be able to
change your
get
life.
anywhere in life. You're
Yeah.
not going to change anything. Like, you getting money is a good thing because you can help other people do good things.
Yeah.
Sure, if you had $1 billion and then you bought $1 billion worth of like McDoubles or something like that, then that's a waste of time if you
Yeah.
ate them all yourself. But if you donated them to 1 billion people, you couldn't do that without the $1 billion.
No.
So like, if you have that mindset of like, no one should have this much money because it's greedy, or because just no one
Or
in the
I'm
world
guilty
should
of
ever have it. I'm
selling,
guilty of doing anything.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and the reason I said, we live around a bunch of the people is because we are from California. I lived in Southern California my whole life. Like most of the people here on our street, a house down the street was like 3 beds, sold for like, I don't even know, $1.5 million. Quote unquote ridiculous is what our old self would have said. And Doug's from NorCal, so he's around like even more wealth where he's from.
Yeah,
So
like Silicon Valley
we
kind of
just
stuff.
like, we didn't know anybody with wealth, and we just assumed like we didn't even know how they got it. So we just thought we see all these people like with this fancy stuff, and we just thought it was nonsense, but you have to flip, your perspective and shift your perspective.
Yeah,
really.
like what's the first thing that you see when somebody drives by in like a McLaren or
Oh,
something like that?
you want to roll your eyes at
You kind of
him.
want us to be like,
But
"The
now
hell is
I'm
that guy
just like,
doing?"
what, that guy likes that, and he probably worked his ass off to get it, and I'm gonna assume that he's doing a lot of good in the world. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna assume he's a greedy.
9 times out of 10, you say that's daddy's money. You
Unless
know what I'm
it is a
saying? You know
dad.
what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, no, it could still be his daddy's money, but
Oh,
that's the
yeah, you do
mentality
think
that you
that.
have. You think that you're like, that's daddy's money. Like,
Yeah.
he
They
don't deserve
inherited
that. They
that.
inherited that.
Yeah. So
Like,
you
how
can't
can
think
you
like
think
that.
like that?
Yeah.
You can't think like that, then expect yourself to put in the work to get the McLaren.
No, because you're not gonna want to get that if you think it's bad.
No, you're gonna just
subconsciously.
sit there and just think to yourself like, well, I don't have anybody to inherit anything from. Like,
Yeah,
what
poor
am I gonna
me.
do? Poor me. Okay, let's not go down that route. Okay, we need to
All
move
right.
on to the next
Then
point.
go
before we
ahead,
start
Doug.
doing that. But this is kind of related to that.
Yeah.
So you start saying things like, oh, poor me. Like, I don't have anybody to inherit that from. I'll never get a McLaren. You
Yeah.
know? Then you're speaking that into existence, which is our next
Yes.
point. Whatever you say out loud
Or the thoughts
or
in your
the
head.
thoughts in your head is what literally happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn this in a book. I actually learned this in a book called Unfuck Yourself. And it
Lord,
was
with the
like-
cursing today.
and what happens is that the mind is so strong that the things that you say or the things that you think are the things that happen to yourself.
Yeah, it's weird.
And I was like, there's no way, because I don't say these things out loud to myself all
No.
the time. I don't say that stuff. But what happens is, and this is my first tangent that I'm going on, which is pretty
wow.
funny. I know it's a breakthrough here. The mind makes something like, I'm going to make up the number, so don't quote me on this number, but the mind makes something like, I don't know, 750,000 subconscious decisions a day.
yeah.
Okay, like a day it makes the decisions, and it's not a decision like, oh, my stomach needs to grumble, so it's gonna grumble. Not like that kind of subconscious like, ooh, I'm not gonna reach for that candy bar because I can't afford it.
Yeah.
So you don't even do it right away, but you don't tell it to yourself. You just walk by the aisle because it's too expensive subconsciously. And so even those subconscious things that your brain is saying speaks into existence. So I actually had to retrain my subconscious a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, but a couple years ago, to start doing things differently, because I learned that whatever I spoke into existence, even subconsciously, happens.
Yeah, and honestly, like, the world is the way it is because you say it is. So if you're saying out loud or thinking thoughts in your head like, well, must be nice for Haley and Doug. It must be nice for Haley because she's got Doug. That's like the biggest thing I hear all the time. And I'm like, it is nice for
That's
me,
pretty whack.
but I would do it anyways. If I wasn't married to him and I was
Yeah.
married to like a complete dud or someone that really didn't believe in me and that I loved anyways, whatever. They don't have to be duds, but I would do it anyways. Like, you can't lean into excuses. You have to say out loud to yourself, well, I can do it anyways.
Yeah, and this is really like the part of the phrase that is, the world it is because the way you say it is.
Yeah.
And what happens is that you say something as somebody's special because of something.
Yes.
This person made that $10 million because they have this. or, that person is special because they were born that way, or they got that from life. And what you end up doing is you are subconsciously, not even subconsciously, like you're just actively doing it at this point. You're putting them on a pedestal higher than you are. And what you're doing then, like the effect of that is that whatever money they're making or whatever success they have is you're basically putting out of your reach. Because you're constantly doing those things to yourself.
And it's easier to play the victim role than to tell yourself, like, I could have done it, but I chose not to. You know, so you're leaning into what I say, the luxury of an excuse, because excuses are luxurious, in my opinion. It's just the easy route to take. It's easier to assume that it's not going to work than fail, because failure is like scary for the mind. And I honestly just had a coaching student who, obviously I won't name names, but I had a coaching call the other day, and the person was basically saying, well, look at this person growing on Instagram so fast. They don't have kids, and I have a bunch of kids, and it's just going to be really hard for me to do that. I don't have help, and I can't hire help. And I'm like, you should really see things to your advantage. Like everything that is a negative, you have to flip on its head. And it's harder to choose like a positive outlook because it's been so ingrained in you to come up with excuses based on our programming and upbringing in society. But you have to say, I have kids, so this is going to help me somehow. And that is very hard to do, especially for Doug and I. Our biggest thing that, like I was saying, is tattooed on our forehead, and we still have to work hard not to say, is we don't have time. But our kids are only going to help us, live the life that we want to live. You obviously don't want to blame your kids for anything, but they can sense that.
Could you imagine?
What?
Just blaming them like, I'm not a millionaire because of you.
Because parents say that. Parents literally say, well, I couldn't progress in my job because I had kids. I'm like, well, that's just a choice. Everything is a choice, and it's a choice to see certain aspects of your life as negative or positive. Everything can work in your advantage if you allow it. It's a choice.
Yeah. And, I have a feeling, just to be honest, we're going to get a lot of hate for this kind of stuff because
I don't think so.
We did a long time ago. I remember we talked about this a long time ago.
Honestly.
And people said that, we had a ton of privilege and like there's all this stuff that was happening. But honestly, like privilege or not, the mindset shift still needs to happen.
Oh yeah. It doesn't matter if you, came from a really wealthy family. It doesn't matter.
And you could still be a complete failure because you don't have the right mindset that's there. And that's all that we're trying to say. We're not trying to say like you can immediately, like you shift your mindset and you're just going to come into all this money and like it's all going to happen. But in order to take that first step, the mindset shift needs to take place. Yeah.
And the other thing, as far as like speaking your life into existence, is you're never going to exceed your wildest expectation. This is something I learn new things all the time, but I think it's been like just 2 weeks of me
all the time, man,
learning this kind of phrase. You're never going to exceed your wildest expectation. So if I expect to only make, like I kept saying, that magical number that would always follow me around for years, 15 or 17K or whatever, I'm never going to make more than that. And so now I have to tell myself verbally out loud to Doug, like, this is my expectation now.
Yeah. And you can't. Yeah. And what happens is, like, if you say something like, like, oh man, it'd be so cool. It'd be so wild to make like $1 million a year. I could like never expect that. Then it's never going to happen.
Yeah, no,
it's crazy. So you have to literally raise what your wildest expectations are. So instead of us being like, like $1 million, I could never imagine what that would be like. That's my wildest dreams. Now we have to sit here and be like, well, my wildest dreams are like $1 million a month.
A month. Yeah.
And you people are not you people, but certain people are going to be like, you guys are stupid to sit here and think you can make $1 million.
That's ridiculous.
Like, that's ridiculous.
What do people say? Yeah.
And like, it's so selfish that you could ever, some other people need that money.
To be honest, and this is like a really raw thing to say, so I don't even know if I'm going to put this in.
I like it.
But I actually learned this from my dad, who was an entrepreneur for so long, and lots of books like Think and Grow Rich, which if you haven't read, you should. But it's actually, I don't know if I'm going to put this in, but
do it.
In some people's mind, it's actually more selfish to not make money, because you can only help yourself. If you only make 10K a month, you cannot help literally anybody else. So if you're walking around saying that the rich people are greedy and, whatever, you don't want to be rich because of that reason, subconsciously,
let's be real.
You're not going to help anybody. Yeah, you're not going to help anyone.
How crazy is that? You are so selfish. Now we're getting real raw now. But you are so selfish that you're not willing to put in the work that you can put in to help other people.
Yeah. And you know what? We're not calling you guys selfish, like literally at all. Because clearly, you know, I'm turning 29 this month, actually next month or this month. And, you know, I have only just realized these things. So
yeah. And, you know,
it's taken me almost 30 years.
Yeah. And if you're listening to the podcast, then we're kind of preaching to the choir because like you guys are here listening to this for a reason. But I mean, that's really what it is.
Just an interesting perspective. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a crazy shift on perspective, and everything that we kind of talked about is a shift on perspective. And that's, to me, in my opinion, that's like the hardest thing to do, is to really put yourself in someone else's shoes and think like, what is it that I need to change about the way I think and the way that I see things in order to make things happen.
Yeah. So let's end it on the last one, which Doug told me that I had to do because it's too confusing to him. But you're going to get it. So this is a huge one. And I don't know, all of the points are so important, but this one has, I think, in my opinion, made us the most amount of money and allowed us to like ridiculously change our lives in 12 months. And it's basically the fact that you have to look at all of your beliefs and what you believe to be true and ask yourself, is this rooted in reality? So when I was, trying to, what, Doug?
No, you guys can't see me making shifty eyes if you're listening on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever. Yeah.
But basically, when I was really down on myself, being an influencer, you can listen to the first podcast episode. I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to be, with my kids at a present mom. I didn't want to have to schling, like these freaking schling. That's a word, right?
Schling?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Yeah, sling.
Oh my God. Schling. Okay, I didn't want to have to sling these meal delivery kits all day until I'm 50 years old. I can't believe I just said the wrong word.
Slanging.
No one's gonna listen to me now. Anyways, slinging them. Clearly, I don't know about that. I didn't want to have to do that forever, and I was just depressed. And I would tell myself I am not good enough to start a course, or I'm not good enough to do anything else. I don't have anything else. I haven't gone to. I don't know. I haven't worked in so long. This is the only thing I'm good for. Entertaining people and pouring my life on the internet. I should have asked myself, is this belief actually rooted in reality? Yeah. Am I actually the worst YouTuber ever? You know what I mean? And I'm not, because I was making $20K a month.
Yeah. And
that applies to literally everything. So that some of the scariest things that we've gone through, to be very open with you guys throughout in 2020 is, putting money, like we said in the last couple podcasts, on credit cards for Facebook ads and coaches. And we could have told ourselves we can't afford that. We don't, make that kind of money. Who do we think we are? No. Or it's not going to work for us because X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. But then we started to ask ourselves, is this actually facts, or is this something that we're making up because we're scared?
Yeah. And that's the phrasing that it takes for you to ask yourself of things that are reality or just in your mind. Is it because of X, Y, and Z? Yeah. Is something. So for instance, this would have been crazy to think about, but our lives could be drastically different if back in the day when I first quit my job and Haley was talking about online courses, if I didn't have this belief that I wasn't good enough to do an SEO course. I was like, you got to do it, Doug. And he was like, I'm not good at it. And it wasn't even just that. I had all these other beliefs, I'm not good enough to do an SEO course, which I don't know why I should have probably done it. I was obviously good enough to do an SEO course. Yeah. But the other beliefs were nobody would buy an SEO course. Yeah, he loved to say that. Nobody would buy it. There's so much training on there that's out there and that's free. Yeah. And it's is that just a belief? Is that true? Is that for real? I should go do research to make sure and confirm that that is a real thing, or is that just what I believe? Mm-hmm. So that's what Haley means when it's is this something that's rooted in reality? So is there facts, hard evidence that proves your belief? Or is it just a dumb belief that your mind has made up because you're scared a little? Yeah, what? Really, Doug. But honestly, it is your mind. So you have to nip it in the bud. You have to nip your mind in the bud. You have to ask yourself, wait a second. Is this my mind keeping me safe, or is this real? Are you just playing tricks on me? Because that's what the mind wants to do. And that was a crazy thing. Does it all the time. The mind wants to keep you safe in your little box. Your little bubble. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't want you to try something new because it's afraid of dying. That's just biology. You know what I mean? It's trying to keep you safe. Your body is an amazing thing. It's trying to keep you safe. But it's not good for entrepreneurism. No, I probably shouldn't do this skydiving thing, but you probably shouldn't, honestly. But but you have to. Your mind wants to keep you safe. That's why there's fear. That's why you're scared. Nowadays when we go to make any decision, I ask myself, when I have a twitch reaction, oh no, that's not a good idea. Just this morning, we wanted to start a new
Do you want to talk about that just for a
new
second?
what?
Like we wanted to run more ads to a different program.
Oh yeah. So
we've
we had,
never
like,
run it before.
Yeah, and we've never ran it before. You know,
How much
more
is that going
budget,
to cost?
more stuff that's going to be happening. And did you want me to really say
Yeah,
how much?
I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be like $5 to $7,000 a month.
I think more
than what we're already spending.
Yeah.
On top of the ads, and we had to like ask ourselves. So I had this instant feeling. Of
I
like,
already knew. Yeah, I already knew Doug's like
like, can we spend that
$7,000?
I know.
And so I asked him, well, what's the
Yes.
worst that could happen? And
Yeah.
if the worst thing did happen, could we live with that?
Yes, and that's like a little trick and game
Yeah.
that she plays on me. Like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I'm like, I guess we just spend money on credit card, and you're like, can we live with that? And I'm like, yes, we can live with that.
I don't see any downsides.
And so
I don't know. I'm a psychopath.
But I mean, that's kind of what it's like, though, is that you have to constantly ask yourself, like, is this really what it's like?
Yeah.
Or is this not? I mean, like, yeah, I have to ask myself every day, like, does my stomach really hurt, or is it just trying to keep me from drinking another boba? Like, like what is this facts or is this not facts?
Yeah,
and
and,
obviously
like,
it's not facts, and I go get another
Oh,
boba.
Doug.
But that's like it's a strange thing to do, is to question yourself every time you do it.
It's
because
weird.
Your instinct can be wrong, and it can be trained the wrong way.
Yeah. And you honestly like can't assume that things have to be hard for you to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You can't assume that, because if you assume it, then it's going to be hard. So you have to just shift your perspective and, you know, create a new reality for yourself.
Mm-hmm. If those of you that are here are listening to this so you can eventually try to make money online, or so you could start working on passive income with courses, our program is launching like very soon. Influencer Course Accelerator. Have we said the name yet?
Yes.
Is that okay? I thought it was a secret for some reason.
No.
Influencer Course Accelerator is going to be launching very soon. We're going to be taking applications for new students like I'm thinking like days.
Yeah.
Like honestly days by the time that this podcast comes out. So if you want the info, you want the down low, you want to know when you can apply, go to influencercourseaccelerator.com. The link is going to be somewhere where you are watching or listening to this. Click on it, throw it in there, and get on the wait list. So you're one of the first to know, because once the spots fill up, like the spots are going to fill up.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think we just ended on that note. We've talked a lot about a lot of mindset-y, shifty, woo-woo things that are here. And Haley's all about it. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, you know, leave them in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on an Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.